And we're live. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. I love being able to come together and just chat about some different topics. I am streaming this not only via Facebook, but also Instagram as well. And I'm excited to touch on the journey and what that journey looks like and the joy and how the journey is the joy. Today, we're going to talk about approval seeking and expectations and the sense of worthiness that we have. So I'm going to wait a quick second just to allow some people to pop on. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. So today is big. So today we're looking at the journey. I wanted to talk about this topic because we're all on our own journey. And it's so interesting because a lot of times we get scared and we want to seek approval that we're on the right path. We want somebody to tell us that it's going to be okay. And so this actually came to me as I was talking about our GPS system and how so many of us, we want the GPS system. We want to know that everything's going to be okay at the end of the day. We want to know, okay, this is where I'm going. And we want to know exactly all the twists and turns and all the ways that we will be supported throughout that journey. But for life, we don't have that GPS system, right? Nobody can really predict, okay, this is going to happen to me a moment from now. Like it's tough to say that we can really, really predict things that are going to happen. Now there's psychics, there's mediums, there's all that jazz. But when we think about our own personal journey, right? Unless you know what's going to happen tomorrow, then we're going to talk about it today. Because we're showing up in the present moment with different senses of worthiness. Right? This different sense of worthiness. We need to get in tune with our own sense of worthiness. How worthy do we feel of love? How worthy do we feel of success? How worthy do we feel to make new relationships? And a lot of times we can catch ourselves because of our current belief system. There are some folks that have a belief system that they have a difficult time meeting people, or that they never have things working out for them, or that stuff has gone on in their life that they failed at and they just haven't been able to rise back up from that. So we all go through our own journey. And when you look at the belief system, that's what I want to touch on today. This is when we look at personal development. It's not so much pointing the fingers and saying, this is why it's not working out. This is why it's not working out. This is why it's not working out. We got to look and point the finger at ourselves and look at how our current belief system is not aligned with that. And we have to also look at, where are we seeking to get our approval from? How do we really know that we're not on the right path? Right? How do we really know that this is what I am meant to do without exploring that curiosity within ourselves, right? Life goes on. That's some of the toughest information that we can get, is that life goes on with or without us. And sometimes that kick in the butt pushes us past some of these excuses because we're like, if not me, then who? Right? Like, this is where we look at that sense of worthiness. Do we feel worthy to speak about what's on our heart? Right? This is what we're going to talk about today. So hello, Sandra. Hey, Scott. Hey, Marissa. Hey, Diane. So good to see everybody. Good morning. Good morning. So let's look a little bit at the failures, because this is the first thought system. Again, we are looking at moving away from a thought system that is based on fear and working towards a thought system that's based on love. So when you look at failures, things that you think have gone completely wrong, things that you have done that just have not worked out, right? The failures. You know exactly what failures come to mind for you. Do we look at those situations with eyes of hatred, with eyes of disgust, with eyes of shame and guilt, right? And what that might look like is, how could I have done that? How could I have let this happen? Why did this happen to me? Right? Some of these thoughts can feel awfully heavy because they are heavy. When we look at failures through a sense of change and taking a lesson from that, then you're learning, then you're growing. Then it's not necessarily a failure. It's just something that didn't work out. And the more we stay fixated on it, the more that we allow our attention to go to that place, then we're no longer living in the present moment, which is where we can create a new reality. I think what happens throughout our journey is a lot of people get stuck. And so the joy is not in the journey. You are waiting to get the joy. You are waiting to get somewhere to feel the joy. And so I want to talk about how can we feel more joy throughout the journey? How can we allow ourselves to stop seeking so much approval from the people around us and remind ourselves that we already have God's approval? We already have God's approval. So when we stand forth and say, I can't do this, I don't have it in me, this is too much work, I've got this, and this problem, it's not going to work out, well, then that's our choice. That's not a choice that God has made for us. That's our choice. So I want to ask why. I want to ask why so many of us get hit with something throughout our journey, and all of a sudden we fall asleep and we forget our greatness. And it's so interesting when you just look at this idea of failure. What really is failure? What really? And how could a human being not make mistakes? We have to look at our belief system, the beliefs we have about failures, the beliefs we have about what's going on in our life, because that's what we can change. The folks that aren't going to dig deep are not going to rise back up, because again, we look at fitness. Physical fitness, you fall down, you have the musculature to pick yourself back up. What about emotionally though? When you get rocked off your game, do you have the emotional musculature to pick yourself back up and rise back up? Or are you going to let the entire day just go to waste? Because you're going to fixate on so much of what went wrong without seeing that fear that continues, guess what? That becomes panic. Fear continued becomes panic. Now imagine we're on our journey, and maybe you don't really have a lot of people. Maybe you're not really around a lot of people, so it's just you and your panic. Now, if we think we have to seek approval from everything outside of us, and we don't necessarily have folks that are supporting us, then that is freaking scary. If we are living without the awareness of who we really are and where we truly come from, then that journey becomes scary, right? When you think about this sense of worthiness, and if you in that moment think that you can't possibly get better because, prior to this moment, you haven't shown any progression, then you have closed yourself off. We have put the fence up and told the universe and told love, stay out. I don't deserve it here. And so what I want to do today is talk about knocking down all those fences, looking at the belief system we have about who really has to approve what we're doing. Because a lot of times what's crazy is we know what we want to do. And as we start throughout that journey, and as we start, unclipping our wings and letting ourselves come out a little bit, some people in your circle of influence might not like that too much. It might be too much for them. They can't handle it emotionally. And they might poke fun at you, and they might say things, and they might not seek to understand what it is you're doing on your journey. They would just rather look at you and say, well, you're not fitting into my expectation as a friend anymore. And when we know that the journey is the joy, we can step foot there and say, what do you mean? What do you mean? Self-development's understanding that there is no expectation we have to meet but God's expectation. There is no approval that we need to have because we already have the approval of God. There is nothing holding us back but our own perception of who we are and what we're capable of. And sometimes we even limit ourselves based on what people think about us. If they don't see it, then sometimes we don't see it. And if we're going to use that as a crutch, even though we can walk on our own, even though we can sprint hundreds of meters, even though we can do so much greatness, we feel debilitated by the things that are said to us, that are projected to us. And that's why the journey is the joy, because this is our journey of self-discovery. This is our journey of remembering that there is no expectation on our life. There's nothing we have to do to receive and be loved. God loves us all day long. And so when we think that we have to do something, life becomes scary. When you think that you're not good enough right now, but when you reach the end of your journey, you're going to be good enough, that gets scary. It delays our happiness, and that's our function here. We show up differently when we're happy. So good morning, Amy. Hello, Scott. Hello, Janine. Hello, Ankush and Erin. So good to see you guys. So this topic can go deep. When you look at the journey is the joy, let's talk a little bit about living in that awareness, about becoming aware of our personal habits, becoming aware of what really lights us up. Right? We can shun that side and we can pretend that side of us does not exist. But guess what? That part of you is going to follow you around all day long because that is you. So personal and self-development is getting clear about what is it that keeps coming up for me? And why is it that I keep shoving this down? Is it because I think I don't have the resources? Is it because I think I'm not credible enough to talk about this? Is it because I think that time is against me and it's too late? There's too many people already successful with this. I've got to find something else. There's so many thoughts that are going to separate you from feeling enough. There's so many thoughts. And that's why the work is so important. Because just like we talked about the physical muscles, that spiritual muscle comes in. We can flex that spiritual muscle anytime we are scared. Anytime we have to make a decision, we can make the decision from the hand of God. Why do we have to make it all by ourselves? Right? We can look deeper at this. And that's what gets me so excited, because your journey is so unique. Our journeys are so unique, even as a baby. Like, think about it. You went from an embryo. You didn't tell yourself to just grow. Right? There was no like homework you were doing in the belly to come out and that would tell you if you're worthy or not. Like, no, that stamp of approval has already been given to you. So why do we stand foot within these beautiful bodies and pretend that we don't exist? There are some folks that choose to feel invisible, that choose to be invisible because they're scared of their own greatness. And what we can do is we can empower people, and we can allow their worthiness to become more aware for them by highlighting it. Part of the journey is being able to see the love within other people. And there's a lot of people walking around that don't even feel the love themselves. Their journey is through hell right now. And so as the person you are today, this is something you're capable of doing. Not just, helping yourself evolve, but we can literally step in and change lives. Just by being a mirror, having so much confidence and love for ourselves, we can show up and negate any of these negative tendencies that people are leaning towards. Like, oh, I'm not good enough for that. I'm not good at that. I've never been good at that. Put all these labels on ourselves. When I think about the label we have is, we are God's children. We are children here, right? There are some folks walking around that are adults that are still acting like a child. And so who are we to judge anyone but understand that people might not be awake by the age of 50. People might not be awake by the age of 80. But you have a choice right now to awaken yourself to a new potential of your life. Like, I get excited when I think about birthdays. Birthdays, right? So many people, all their failures come up during birthdays because it's one moment of their life that they remember where they were last year. And only that person can truly discern how much more effective they have become from that year to the year before. And so many of us sit there and we look out a window and we say, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could have that. I wish I could become that. Meanwhile, we can literally just move aside the window and walk out the door. We are not on crutches spiritually. We are not debilitated spiritually. There is nothing wrong with us spiritually. So a lot of times when you feel like you have to trust in your own emotional strength and it's not there. You've got to trust in your own physical strength and it's not there. I'm just bringing up the topic to remind you that you can go to that spiritual strength. And even on the days that you don't feel like you've got it in you, even on the days where you are so judgmental of yourself and what you have or have not done, you think that you've made so many mistakes. How could anyone love you? How could anyone protect you? How could anyone look after you? The spiritual side is always there. Again, I joke like God's chilling in the background and we're like, no, God, I got this. Like, chill, I'll come to you when I need you. I got this. And we try and grit and get through life all by ourselves, pretending we're tough. Meanwhile, we're going home and we're feeling like we want to die. Why can't we be more open in this present moment? When we get scared, you don't have to live with that fear. Again, that fear continued will become panic. And I don't think we're put on this earth to panic about how to be, right? It's when we panic about who am I, what am I doing here, what's my calling? It's so much of the expectation. You feel like you've got to be somebody else sometimes. Maybe Sergio knows this, Darcy knows this. We've all been there where we want to be approved and we want to be loved by other people. So maybe we start, changing around how we act. We want to meet their expectations, so maybe our own priorities go to the wayside and we do whatever it takes to appease and please them. Because that's what we think we need to do. That's what we are saying in that moment. This is what I deserve. I deserve to listen to them. And that's not the case. It's not the case. The journey is the joy. Your journey of self-discovery and of personal power and of finding your voice and of being unapologetic and of really being brave. That's what it is. The journey will be joyful for those that are brave enough to allow it to be, without feeling like it's got to look a certain way and then you'll be happy. How can we bring a different level of appreciation to our senses? An appreciation of who we are as human beings, an appreciation of our body, an appreciation of what we're doing today, an appreciation of even what we've been through, right? Like, how can we shift our consciousness to that point where we start to see things not through so much eyes of judgment, but through eyes of love? Where all of a sudden, those mistakes you think you made, no, in a moment of meditation, when you give those up, you realize, wow, all of those mistakes have allowed me to become right here. And where I'm at right here is powerful. And where I'm at right here is a place where I can create, no matter where you are in your life, right? No matter where you are in your life. You don't have to do things to get approval, to be loved, to be good enough. It's already there. We just have to access it. And that's what personal development is. It's going in and accessing all of this greatness. It's going in and taking that radical responsibility of how you show up. It's of looking at your personal habits, professional habits, right? When we procrastinate, when we get overwhelmed, when we get nervous, when we get anxious, we are literally trying to hold up the world on our own. We're trying to see the future. That unknown becomes awfully scary. But if we can take our step back, See where we're at in that present moment. Understand that meditation and those decisions that you can make in meditations, they don't have to be made just by you. You don't have to know absolutely everything, because there is this greater presence within you that already knows things that you don't. And one of those things that greater presence knows is how loved you are, or else you would not be here. You would not have gone from the embryo to the baby if you did not have a purpose. Right? So understanding your journey is going to be unique. Your curriculum is going to be unique. It's meant to be that way. It's an exciting part of our lives because we get to discover who we are, where we come from, how great we are, all the things that we can create. We can bring ourselves to this contributive vibe. There's so much that we can contribute when we stop feeling bad about ourselves, when we start looking at how may I serve here versus what can I get, which is generally the approval of others. So I hope this was helpful, guys. I hope this message at least awakens your thoughts to the idea that, you know what, there is a lot of joy in our journey. There's no reason to keep joy at the finish line, right? It's like, we sometimes feel like we're running in a marathon, and for some of us, it doesn't feel like anyone's watching. And sometimes that's the fear, is that we just don't matter and like nobody cares about my journey. And you'll start to hear this in the way you speak. You'll start to feel this in the way you act, because that attitude is not grace. That attitude is not grace. That attitude is of someone that does not see beyond their physical senses, right? So let me be your reminder that I see you. I see you on your journey. I'm right there with you. You might feel like you're hitting hurdle after hurdle and you ain't even a freaking runner, right? Like you might be like, sure, I'm a thrower over here and I'm running over hurdles after hurdles after hurdles, just trying to get to the finish line. Just know that I am right there with you. I am right there with you taking this journey, running over each hurdle, and more importantly, you've got God to rise you up on those hurdles that you feel are too big. And those moments where you feel like you cannot get past this present moment, God is right there. God is right there to pick you up and help you get through it. God is right there to pick you up emotionally and remind you that life will go on. Life will go on. We're not stuck here, right? Sometimes when we feel stuck, that's why we get scared too, because we're like, why are things not working out for me? We are the creators of this. We are the creators here. So don't feel stuck on a page, especially when you've been stuck on that page for so long, and that page at the top of it says failures and why you suck. And we keep reading that page and being like, okay, this is who I am. I guess this is what I'm telling myself. These are all my personal beliefs. I'm ready to turn that effing page to a page that says why God loves me. Why God loves me. And at the top of that page is because I'm me. You just put in big letters, because I'm me. And that's this beautiful, we will talk about it. It's a beautiful reparenting. It's a beautiful shedding of the skin of who we think we really are and what we think we really have to do. And if we can just let that go and remember that God has a bigger purpose on our life, and not to be afraid and not to allow all of these fears to creep in. That's power. That's your power. And I hope we all find that today, because we have it. So I love you. Erin, great message. So good to see you. Hello, Eddie. Hello, John. I will see you guys tomorrow, bright and early. Mwah, 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 mwah. Adios.